Today's video, the Kaypro EXP Kaypro PC.
We got 20-minute videos on old technology, computers, laser discs, and some CDs. We got two little dogs licking their balls on the screen, and now it's time for the show.
So today's video is going to be interesting for a couple reasons, but one of the reasons is I've actually had this computer for several years. And when I first got it, I opened it up and went through it, so I kind of know what's in here and what it's all about. And then I sort of put it in storage, and it's been there for, at least 3 years maybe, so I pretty much forget most of this PC. I know there's some interesting things, really interesting things about it we're going to look at, but as for the details, it's almost like when I open this thing up with you guys, it's almost like I'm opening it up for the first time. Well, not quite, because there's one big weird thing about this PC that I'm already aware of, but again, like I said, it's almost like a new build to me because, like I said, I haven't touched this thing for several years. So, yeah, if you're familiar with Kaypro in the 80s made a lot of sort of luggables. They are known for like word processing. I think they used like CPM. They didn't really make IBM compatibles. Well, they did. That's what this is. But they were a little bit late to the game. Like I said, they're mostly known for those luggables with the green screen CRTs in them. A lot of people did like word processing on them and whatnot. But they were not really gaming machines. I used to have a Kaypro 10 or 20, I think. I have a blog article on it, but unfortunately, I got rid of that machine before I started this YouTube channel, so I wasn't able to do a video on it. But yeah, that was their bread and butter. I think eventually they got bought out by somebody. Interesting, this is one of their early PC compatibles. Like I said, they were a little bit late to the game. They had some different ideas for a PC compatible, which we'll look at here. But yeah, it's a very like IBM AT, XT sort of look. Obviously, I don't think this was the shade of the faceplate plastic. It's very yellowed, very, very yellowed. So I'm guessing it wasn't originally yellow. It was probably more like this color here. Kaypro EXP. Usually I see these referred to as Kaypro, just Kaypro PCs. And these were not very common as far as I could tell. At least there's not a lot of information on these or specifics. But yeah, I like this neat little design here with the vent. Nothing here. Feels like there's indentations there, but a little power light, green LED power light with a little light bulb, and hard drive activity light right there. And that's about it. The power switch is on the side like a lot of those older AT, PC, XT type cases. We have two 5 1/4 inch floppy drives. I am pretty positive those are not 1.2 megabyte. I believe these are 360K floppy drives. Not 100%, but I'm like 90% sure that's what these are. So yeah, very old school here. We'll flip it around, take a quick look at the back. Well, on the side, really quick, there is that nice red power switch on and off. Always very satisfying. And let's turn it around to the back. All right, nothing too weird back here. We've got your power supply, and we have the one for the monitor where you can plug the monitor in. So you only have one cable going to the power outlet. A little dusty. I don't know exactly when this was manufactured. I think it was about 84 or 85. I don't see a manufacturer date back here. Looks like, I don't remember if these use PC or the AT style keyboard. It's an AT connector, but I don't remember if you need a PC keyboard or an AT one. Either way, I have both. Looks like I/O connectors here. I believe this is an EGA card, but it's been a while. This is actually why I originally picked this machine up. Just look at this interesting switch and button here. When I originally picked this machine up, I actually thought this might have been an accelerator card, because I've seen a few like 286 accelerator cards that had switches on them to switch between your 8088 and the 286 accelerator, and I kind of thought that's what that was at first, but turns out it's not an accelerator card. It's something way different. So, so we're going to open this up and take a look inside. It's pretty interesting in there. And definitely older style, how these connect in the front. They use these front sort of screws, rails. So here's the Kaypro PC with the cover off. It has quite a number of screws on the sides to get that top off. And right off the bat, do you notice anything strange about this board? Maybe the motherboard looks a little odd? Like there's no chips on it at all? Yeah, this is, I don't want to say it's unique about the Kaypro PC, because I've actually seen this sort of configuration in another PC. It's in a storage unit back east, so I don't even remember the brand or anything. But yeah, this is a machine where it has the CPU and all the major components on a CPU card, and the motherboard just kind of acts almost like a riser card with it just takes the power and it just has the ISA slot. So it's almost like a reverse of what the usual setup is with a computer. So yeah, all your main components are basically on this card. You have your motherboard with the power supply right there where the power goes in and powers everything, and basically just your expansion slots, which is in this case ISA. So really kind of interesting. We got room for, you know, our two drives here, the two 5 1/4 inch bays, and right here I guess you would put a hard drive. I think you could get an option from the factory with a 30 megabyte MFM or RLL hard drive, possibly full height. I'm not sure. But yeah, very, very interesting design. I know there's a 286 version of these, and I think it used just kind of the same, again, I'm not sure if you would call that a motherboard, but it uses the same basic board down there, and you would just, I guess, you could just turn one of these into a 286 by taking this out and putting in the 286 motherboard, because you see, some of these slots are 16-bit ISA, but I don't think we can take advantage of those with this CPU card. So I'm going to take out all these cards individually, and we'll look at them, and yeah, kind of an interesting interesting idea. It didn't take off. Industry went the other way, but it's still kind of unique. Alright, so here we can take a look at the motherboard without any of the expansion cards on it, and yeah, it's pretty damn bare. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 expansion slots ISA. 2 of them are 16-bit ISA, but although I don't think you can actually utilize these if you're using like an 8088 type processor card. We have, it looks like, you know, provisions where they could have added more 16-bit slots. So I think these are mainly for like if you upgrade your card to the 286 card. So nothing on here, no RAM, no nothing. I don't know what these little extra, looks like power connectors are, because here it looks like standard AT. And then you have these little extra ones. Maybe they were just looking to the future, because, you know, they didn't know what was going to be the next step. Maybe this was just sort of like betting on the future, where if they need to add more power. Little white block thing back here, don't know what that is. And that's it. Just, you know, some caps. It's a little bit dusty, but not too bad. Kaypro, made in the USA. Got the FCC number. Not really much else on there. It's a little bit loose. Right here, these are some connections where it connects to that CPU card, and it has a real PC speaker here on the side, and it connects to that CPU card there. So here's the connector for the floppy. It's an edge connector, obviously, and we even have 2 extra Molexes from this power supply, which I'm not sure what the wattage. Looks like 135 watt. So this looks like, from the marking on the side, this is a 135 watt power supply. Not too much. Not as bad as those early IBMs, but so let's look at the cards one by one. So this is the first card that I pulled out. This is just the floppy drive controller. Nothing really special about it. I think it's just your standard floppy drive controller. I think it just can handle 360 kilobyte 5¼ inch drives and probably the 720 kilobyte 3½ inch floppy drives. I'm guessing it's pretty standard. Edge connector right here where you connect your floppy drive cable right there. That's it. That's just a floppy drive controller. I think all the cards in this except for one are all factory stock. I don't think the previous owner swapped anything out, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So next card we're going to look at is the giant I/O controller right there. It's parallel serial port, I believe. It's just your standard old giant serial or I/O controller card. Nothing super special, 8-bit, and that's about it. Again, don't think it's really super special or anything. Alright, now for the memory. The RAM for this machine is on a separate card here. Kaypro, made in the USA. And yeah, switches, although I'm not sure what they do. Now this machine only came to me with the one bank up here filled, and I believe it's 256K of RAM, which isn't a whole lot. A little bit limited on what I can run with it. Now, I did plan to fill these up. These RAM chips, you can look them up on eBay. They're relatively inexpensive, and I could probably, for $25 or so, I could probably fill this whole card up. I'm not really going to bother to because I could put 25 bucks to more use in another machine. I have a lot of machines that do the same thing this Kaypro machine does better, so I don't really see the point of investing the money into maxing RAM out on this particular machine. But from what I can tell, I think you can actually take this up to 728 kilobytes total. I think. 256 times 3. I think. Math isn't my strong point, but I know it's actually over 640. And I know the cool thing about these Kaypro PCs is they were a little bit ahead of the curve with memory, and they could do a sort of a trick where you could get more than the 640 KB of memory. I believe it, like I said, I think it was 728, something along those lines. So I know some other machines could do that, and you could use little things like the, I think it was called the, I have it in my 8088 machine. It's like the high page card or something that you could do that. But yeah, this machine came from the factories, from what I can research, with a software trick that could do that. Although I'm not sure at what capacity you could use that. I know a lot of them. I think some like the Tandy 1000s could use up to 700 and something kilobytes of RAM, but over 640 it had to be used to video. I don't know if it's like that with this. From what I read, I've seen a lot of mentions of using it as a fast RAM drive, or a RAM drive. So you might be limited to only being able to use that extra RAM as a RAM drive, but it's still kind of cool and kind of interesting. Again, I'm not sure. I'm sure you have to use these switches to set your amount of RAM, but I couldn't find anything online how to set the switches. But right now it is set for, it's just 256. So yeah, interesting little RAM card here. So next, the video card. This machine, I don't have the card on me. I'm not sure where it is. I took a picture of it though, which I will put up on the screen. So this machine originally came with an EGA, I believe, EGA or CGA card. I have the exact card. It will be up on the screen right now that I took a picture of. But for convenience sake, I did remove that at some point, and I just put in this Trident 8900B card. This is 16-bit ISA, but it actually will work just fine in an 8-bit slot. So these are very handy. Not the fastest older VGA cards, but they're fast enough, and they're pretty handy because they can use 16 and 8-bit slots. So I always find these old Trident cards very useful. I actually did a video on them at one point. And the D revision is pretty fast, but this is the B revision. More than fast enough for this machine, and it just gives me the convenience of using a more modern VGA monitor. So just convenient. Alright, so lastly we're going to look what we've all been waiting for. We're going to look at this massive CPU card. So here is the CPU card. It interfaces with what seems to be just a standard 8-bit ISA connector here, Kaypro, made in the USA. Just take a look at it. Connects. There's a cable coming off the motherboard right here. It's probably for the LED lights and stuff. On the back, the speaker connects right here. Kind of a weird two-prong connector. We have a little switch box here that I have no idea what it does. And then just a bunch of chips, same kind of chips I guess you would find on that's usually on the motherboard. So just a bunch of chips, and then we get over here, and here's the CPU. Now I think this empty socket is for a math coprocessor, so an 8087 I believe would go here. So here is our CPU, and in this case it is an NEC V20. Now I don't know if this was an upgrade by the former user or if these came from the factory stock from Kaypro with a NEC V20. Now, these were a little late to the game for PC compatibles, but they were known, at least from what I'm reading, for being a little bit faster. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say maybe these came stock from Kaypro with the V20s already installed. So this might be from factory and not an upgrade from the previous user. I also believe this is a 8 megahertz CPU, I think. This might be an 8 megahertz CPU, although I'm not 100% sure on that. I have tested this machine in the past, and it posted okay. It ran games, but it's been a long time, so I don't quite remember. Jumper here, not sure what that does. And so these on the back here, I think this red button here, I believe that is the reset button. The switch I don't quite remember, but it may be a turbo switch. So even though this wasn't a turbo card as I thought, I do think this is a turbo feature for the 8088. I think it might be switch it between, like, maybe, geez, I forget what your standard 8088 speed is. It's like 4.57 megahertz, something like that. It's around 5 megahertz, I think, and 8 megahertz, maybe? Don't really remember, but I think that's what that does. So I'll put this all together again. I'll try to post it and run some tests on it. I come across a lot of old computers, even 8088 machines, and very few. This is only the second machine I've ever come across that used this sort of CPU card design rather than a more traditional approach to a computer. So as I mentioned earlier, they did make a 286 version of this Kaypro PC. I'd be interested in seeing one of those one day, but yeah. So I'm going to put this thing back together, and we'll see how it. We'll see if it powers up okay still. All right, so I've got it all hooked up here. I've got this DOS 3.2 bootable. We'll put in a drive, and I have this Packard Bell. I believe this is a PC style computer. I'm thinking it uses PC and not AT. So I guess we'll power it up and see what happens. Power LED came on, and we've got an image, although there's going to be a glare, but the monitor did kick in. I heard it. There we go. That's good. Yep, 256 KB of memory, Kaypro Corporation dual speed CPU, so I think that's because of the switch there. And okay, yeah, it looks like it's booting, or trying to. Hopefully the drive still works. There we go. So we're in. Let me test the, yep, keyboard seems to work, so I think it wants a PC style, which makes sense. It's just, you know. Oh, so yeah, cool. Let me see if anything, let me make sure, I'm going to hit that red button on the back, and yep, that is the reset button. That's as I remember it being. Did that say a 1 meg of RAM on that card? Okay, well, cool. There we go. It posts. It more or less runs. So I don't think I have any diagnostic software, benchmarking software on 5 1/4 inch floppy. Of course, I could just grab a 720K or even a 144 megabyte floppy drive that will act as 720, hook it up. But I'm just going to do a quick and dirty test to check if that switch changes CPU speed. So in B, I put in Striker, which the B floppy drive does also seem to be working. And it's a very speed-sensitive game, so I will start it up and play it real quick and then flip that switch and see if it changes. It should be pretty noticeable if there's a speed difference. Alright, so quick test. We start the game. And looks like it's running pretty normal speed. So I'm going to flip the switch. I can find it now. And yeah, so the switch definitely is to change the speed. At this current point, I just don't know what the speed is changed to, but I believe it's probably, and then there we go. It's probably kicking it from, your standard 8088 speed, which for some reason escapes me at the moment, to 8 megahertz. Well, I don't seem to have one of those Molex adapters to hook up a 3 1/4 inch floppy drive, but I did find a old version of Norton System Works or Norton something on a 5 1/4 inch floppy. So I run the sysinfo and your basic stuff here, your memory. Doesn't really give a CPU speed, but it does have computing performance index relative to an IBM PC of 1.4. I'm going to hit that switch on the back and run it again, see if that number changes. And I ran it again, and it actually ran noticeably quicker. And now I get a computing performance index relative to IBM PC of 2.9. It goes from 1.9 index to 2.9 index. So that's, or 1.4, there's the old one. 1.4, and when I flip the switch, it did speed it up to a 2.9 IBM PC index rating, whatever the hell that means. So I could hook up another drive or, all that jazz and run a better program, but I'm really lazy and I don't think it's really necessary. So the Kaypro PC or the Kaypro EXP or whatever you want to call it, what do I think of it? I don't know. I'm kind of teetering on, I want to say it's above average PC IBM compatible clone, despite the unconventional layout. The unconventional layout on the inside doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really affect how it performs. I would say the only negative thing, and it's really minor, is you don't have a reset or, well, the power button's on the side, but you don't have a reset or the turbo switch on the front. You have to reach around to the the corner back over there, so it's a little awkward. But I mean, other than that, the unconventional interior layout really doesn't affect everyday operation. I suppose at the time it would have been a good idea, if you wanted to upgrade, say, to a 286. Well, instead of getting a whole new case, a whole new motherboard stuff, you just open it up, pull out the processor card, and then you put in a 286 one. And I think that's how these work. I think you only would change the processor card. And it's an interesting idea. Didn't really take off. I know motherboards started changing really quickly, and it just wasn't an idea that took off. I would be interested in seeing a 286 version of this. I know they made them. I think would it just be swapping the processor card, or are there other components? I don't know. This two 16-bit ISA slots on there, though, suggests to me that it would just be a swap of that processor card. But I mean, other than that stuff, other than the unconventional layout, I would say it's a little better than say your average 5150 from IBM, or even the XT from IBM. It came factory stock, a little faster. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure if it came factory with that NEC V20, but I would bet that it did. It has a turbo function. I believe it's 4.77 megahertz, and I think the switch kicks it up to 8. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that because I really wasn't able to run diagnostic software, and I'm on a bit of a time crunch right now, and I do not have any spare Molex to floppy connectors around to hook up a 720K drive. But you do have that little turbo option that you didn't have on the base, the IBM 5150 or the IBM XT or even the IBM AT. So I think this would have been a slightly above average choice for a PC compatible machine. Nice little case here. Nice little, design there, even though it's horribly yellowed. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty decent. It does what it's supposed to do pretty well. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Like I said, I don't have... This machine, though, doesn't do anything that all my other machines don't do, maybe a little bit better. So I don't know if there's really a place for this in my collection. I want to keep it just because, the cool inside. You don't see Kaypro PCs very often. So it's kind of interesting, but, space limitations. I would be interested. I'm almost tempted to go and buy the extra memory for that little memory card just to max it out, but I mean, that money could probably go elsewhere. But I would be interested in how that memory operates in this machine, and if you need special drivers. I want to say, which I don't have. I don't have any, original software for this thing. So I'm wondering if you set that memory, if you get the whole. I think it's 728 or 764. I can't remember numbers. If you do max out the memory on that card, though, I'd have to figure out. You probably have to change the switch settings, which I don't know. I haven't been able to really find what you would change those switch settings to. But then I'm curious if that's all it would take, like putting the memory in, putting that card in, and configuring the switches correct, or is there some kind of software that would have to go with it to be able to use that extra memory over the 640? Or if you could actually use that for something other than like a fast RAM drive, which for all my stuff I've been reading seems to suggest really that's all you could use it for, which is still very useful, especially back then where you just didn't get really anything above 640 on a PC, except unless you had like an expensive memory like expansion card. But yeah, so that is the Kaypro PC or Kaypro EXP. I've actually never seen it except this example here referred to as the Kaypro EXP. Online it usually just says the Kaypro PC, but yeah. So that's about all I have to say about this thing. So thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Click that bell thingamajig, and I'll see you in the next video.